Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Second Act Actors. I'm your host, Dr. Janet McMorty, and I was and still am a medical doctor simultaneously trying to pursue a career in acting. My guest this week is Tony Cauch. Tony was a banker turned actor. He's also a musician, specifically reggae musician. He has a fantastic story to tell about his journey from banking into where he is now pursuing music and acting. I love what he has to say all about creativity and how, we as humans have a short time on this planet, and we gotta be doing stuff that fuels our fire, brings creativity to the world, and brings joy. Please enjoy the lovely and incredible Tony Cauch. Screen behind you.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you. I was really kind of thinking, I'm going to do a really good job here and be all ready for this and show off my tech chops, which I have been exposed rather quickly in this little discussion. Yeah.
But also, I think over the last couple of years, right? Like the tech stuff we've had to learn.
Oh, absolutely.
It's nuts. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So tell me your story. How did you get into this acting business?
Wow. I mean, when I was a kid in school, I did study theater arts in high school, as memory serves. It was a long time ago. I've been emceeing events and doing all kinds of different things over the years, community-based things, things for boards that I was a member on and so forth. And anyway, I'll start from the top. I studied music at U of T in the early 80s, late 70s, and I put myself through school by working part-time in banking. And basically, I had started on the road in the mid 80s and realized that I wasn't going to be able to support a family on what I was making as a road warrior. And so I ended up going back into banking. I guess the decision was aided as well by my girlfriend at the time, developing a curious abdominal swelling. And that curious abdominal swelling is now an adult. And so I ended up going into banking and supporting my family and being a good boy and working in music part-time on the weekends and at night, and doing the odd bit of, a little bit of comedy here and there, and a little bit of hosting of events and so forth. A client of mine, a casting director, said to me one day, I really have to get you into this acting thing. Fast forward, I retired at 50 from banking. I gave her a call one day and said, I'm going to take you up on this acting business. And she said, good, you have an audition tomorrow morning. And I went there, and, with very little backup, I got the gig. So I played in, I guess it was in 2013, in a series called Untouchable, Power Corrupts. And anyway, it was my first exposure to television, I guess. So anyway, I've been working at it ever since, and it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Were you a bit of a creative? I know you went obviously in music at U of T. Were you creative growing up? Was there kind of like an acting performative kind of bug when you were a kid?
Well, I haven't really grown up yet, but I can tell you that, yes, I definitely had that bug. It was look at me, I'm different, I'm interesting, and blah, blah, blah. But it was a whole lot of fun, and it's helped me get over my shyness over the years.
What made you go into banking?
Money.
Fair enough.
An absolute need for money to support my family.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah. I think it's a very logical approach. Absolutely.
Well, you're the doctor.
Yeah, right? That I feel you, right? Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny. I was chatting with somebody earlier about the, Gen X, millennial kind of were that last breed of people who, kind of saw our parents going through very logical jobs that they kind of hated and kind of thought, oh, I guess we have to do that too. Work the 9 to 5, make all the money as fast as you can. Then maybe you can think about the things that actually you love to do.
Right. There's a bit of a divide between a generation and mine. Again, I did it. I did it willingly. I can tell you that, as we were approaching the 30-year mark in banking, I was starting to retire of it. And when I was able to retire early from that, I was just more than delighted to do it.
Was there anything that you've noticed you've brought from your banking career into now your acting career?
Yeah, I suppose, yes. The nature of my job was that it was such that I was, often addressing large groups of people. And so I became comfortable in that and developed my own delivery style. And I think it's helped me in terms of, just being comfortable, especially in live situations where you're on stage and you're doing things. And maybe technical things start going wrong or something like that. And you kind of, buckle up, kids, we're driving off the cliff. And, you just learn how to handle these things a little more, I don't know if I'll say graciously or gracefully. I mean, confidently, I suppose.
When you made the switch, like I know, was there actual switch, I should say, that said, I'm done with banking, I want to do acting? Or was it, I'm now retired from banking, now I want to do this acting thing? Or was there kind of a personality change or anything like that?
I think it was gradual. It took place over about 8 months.
Yeah.
And I realized that, I thought I'd consult for a while, and I did. I consulted and didn't enjoy that either, strangely enough. I felt happiest when I was playing music or when I was, doing, some live theater type things. And I thought, well, and I talked with my wife about this, and she said, well, why don't we just do that? And just remarkably elegant in its simplicity. Let's just do that instead. Okay. So it worked out well. And, I enjoy it quite a bit. I mean, I certainly don't make the same kind of money that I used to make. But am I, happier? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, I think, when I talk to a lot of people who've had careers before they've moved into acting, a lot of people, and I'm of the same brain as this, with a very kind of my logical, sciencey brain, saying, if I get to a certain level in this career, and usually it's monetary, right, then I will be comfortable enough to say, put you aside. I can now do the passion projects and the stuff that I love. And, just again, thinking about your career in banking before and saying, I'm in this for the money. I know that sounds kind of harsh, but like, that's why I do it. But it's true, right? Absolutely it is. We kind of have to be. A starving artist is not a good way to live. Because that, right? So like, do you think for you, was that kind of a similar mindset? Like, okay, now I feel comfortable enough to pursue this passion project?
I think that, definitely. Yeah. That did enter into my decision-making process. There's no question. Again, my kids were grown. I paid off the things that were supposed to pay off, and I put a little bit of money away and stuff. And I just thought, how long are we going to be around? How long, tomorrow is not guaranteed. You want to make sure that you're doing things that resonate, with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the second stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful very much so that I have the ability or the freedom and the opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm. Has there been anything that surprised you coming kind of back into a creative industry, into the entertainment industry?
I don't know if I would say surprise more than a bit of a culture shock. I was the chairman of the chair of an economic development corporation for the area. I served on the board of St. Joseph's Health Center for 9 years, and I was always kind of the boss. And I'm not the boss anymore. And oftentimes I have somebody who's quite a few summers younger than I, saying, Tony, this is what I need from you.
Mm.
Can you give that to me, please? And I'm thinking, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. As a matter of fact, I like not being in charge of everything now. I'm not in charge of anything. All I want to do is deliver a good performance, something that resonates, something that's credible, and something that augments the story. And I like being able to sharpen my focus on that. It's quite a luxury, actually.
Did you train in acting at all when you were in doing your music degree, or has that now just kind of started?
I guess I had done some training.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize I wasn't really all that serious about it. And I became serious about it 40 years later. Well, no, 35 years later, let's just say. I still do a lot of workshops now. I just finished a great program with Mark Byron Dallas on accents, Actors Accent Academy. I'm plugging you, Mark. And it really was quite enjoyable. And what it does is essentially it gives you the tools to go out and research the accent and give you an idea what to be looking for, and then how to employ it into a role. It's interesting because when you're working with accents, oftentimes you're so focused on the accent itself that your acting isn't so good. And I learned that the hard way. Now, our agent, Terry Ritter, she had received a self-tape from me, and I was supposed to be playing a Kiwi air traffic controller. She said, the accent's terrible, but the acting is awful. And I kind of, oh, okay. All right, well, thank you for that. I appreciate the candor. We're going to regret you for this one. All right. Okay. So there you go.
Well, I find honestly if there's too much involved in a character, especially at a self-tape level, it is so overwhelming. And that made me think of, and by the time this airs, this movie's probably already will have been made, so it doesn't matter. This character that was, so usually I get like mom roles. Fine, easy peasy. That's my bread and butter. Mom 40. But I got one, it was witch, who's also blind, who speaks French. So I had to do like French and English, like Quebecois French. So I had to have speak my Quebecois French, do my Quebecois accent when I'm speaking in English, be a witch, and then be blind. And it was such a physical, like, motion capture role. I was like, okay, I'll just do my best. It's like you were saying, it's overwhelming. It's part of the fun to build this, but yeah, it's a lot.
I enjoyed that, and it just reminded me. Now, I did the that PetSmart commercial not too long ago. I guess it was just last year, and I was the fellow singing to the parrot. And the parrot, of course, had its own agenda during the shoot. And of course, I'm holding the parrot on my right hand, and I've got to keep it up at a certain level in order for it to be happy and not want to climb up on my shoulder and maybe sit on my head. So anyway, yeah, that's fine. I'm singing the line, and all it is "For you mean everything to me." That's all it is. One line. Now, first started out, the parrot refused to look at me. All right, so the parrot's got its back turned, and I'm take after take after take after take. Then the parrot decided that it would start to dance. Now, the handler of the parrot did not trim the claws of said parrot, and so the parrot, of course, started to draw blood on my hand, and so that was a little, extra delay there. And then the parrot decided to sing "Happy Birthday" and "Jingle Bells" every time I sang my line. So finally, after I don't know how many takes, the parrot looked at me lovingly, longingly into my eyes, and we got it in the can, finally, at long last. Whereupon the parrot bit my thumb and crapped all over me. And I thought, and you can't really see that on the finished product, of course. It's
anything for the craft.
Anything for the craft, no.
That's
anything
amazing.
for that, anything for the buyout, no.
Oh my God, yeah.
Anyway,
well,
just a
it's
whole
funny.
lot of fun.
I was just about to ask you, do you still have you're still performing, doing music, right? Like clearly,
Yes.
obviously in this commercial, but other than that,
Yes.
Still pursuing music?
Yes. Yeah. I don't think it's, well, it never really was particularly economically viable. But it's more difficult now because just the state of intellectual property with the advent of all of the technology that we have. Recording doesn't make you any money anymore. So it's now live performance that is ostensibly to help you to make ends meet. The unfortunate part is that there's a battle for the basement going on to play in venues because there are fewer and fewer venues and more musicians looking to play in them. So consequently, the pay will start to drop down, and people will be willing to play for less and less. So it's not so much that anymore. I'm, doing it for the original purpose, for love, and so that's pretty much where that is right now. Still looking for various projects. Still looking to get back to Jamaica. I play a lot in Jamaica when there's no global pandemic, and I play down there under the name Young Tony. And but we, to simplify, we just use the initials. So I play in Jamaica under the name YT.
Cool. I didn't know that. That's so neat. Where do you play?
All over, mostly in the west part of Jamaica, in Westmoreland, in Negril specifically. And I play in a number of different places there and host a couple of events.
That's so cool.
Help out with Blues on the Beach and a couple of other events down there. Neat. And work a lot with the folks from Studio One who recorded all the great things that came out of Jamaica from the 60s to the early 90s, I guess. Wow. And so I'm very grateful to do that stuff. And I take old American soul and flip it 90 degrees to reggae. So if you take a look at my YouTube site, you'll see some interesting things like that with none of this pesky rehearsal business. Live off the floor.
Neat. Mm-hmm. How in the world did you get into reggae music?
Um, yeah, years ago in the 80s, I met a group of men who came from Jamaica in the first or second wave of migration to Canada. And these folks were reggae musicians. And they took this skinny, long haired white kid under their wing for some reason, unbeknownst to me. But I'm so happy they did.
Yeah.
Um, they were just so kind and generous to me. And with their time and their skill and their energy. And I guess that's how the love affair with reggae and Jamaica began for me.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is a magical place for me.
Yeah, neat.
And the people are magical too.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for anyone interested in kind of re-sparking that creative fire with now like great wiseness and maturity?
Me? Oh, that's right. I can see the gray here in the beard, right? Oh, so that, okay, I've got the wisdom now, right? I believe that one must pursue art. I think that art it's rewarding in the pursuit of itself. It is, creativity is just one of the things that separates us from, I don't know, savages. The ability to create things, the ability to write things, the ability to tell stories, the ability to sing, the ability to play instruments. I think that our lives are short enough the way they're constructed, and if we want to make a mark, or even just for selfish reasons, just do something that brings more joy. I think it's creating. I really do, and I'm grateful that I've been able to do it for so long. So the advice, in a nutshell, do it. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be good. What it has to do is provide you with an outlet to be creative. And surprisingly, eventually, you do often become good at it.
I love that. I think, again, that a lot of people, especially when they're trying to enter this later on, I know myself personally, come from it with a very perfectionism mindset, just because that's what got me my successful first career in the first place, right? Was perfectionism. Yes. And to be able to, well, one, try and like unlearn those perfectionism tendencies and just let it go is terrifying, but also like it's just such a relief.
Yeah.
Like, you're just gonna held up so much needs to be perfect for so long that you're like, oh, this is so nice.
Exactly.
What a relief.
And perfection is the enemy of good. And it's funny because, I've done things that I thought, oh man, and the director's happy with that. Gosh, I don't think that's very good at all. And then I see it, a lot of the art is created in the editing suite anyway. So, I realized that, and I've looked at it, later on, and said, okay, well, that is good, actually. That, I see what the director saw in that particular take. Mm-hmm. But perfection is definitely the enemy of good.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, again, we see ourselves in a completely different way than what the rest of the world, especially the artistic world, sees us, right? And it's so refreshing when people are looking for that imperfection as it, and I've talked to a couple directors and casting directors, and they talk about how much they love like interesting faces and unique things about people. And I don't know what it is about us as actors, where we think we need to be exactly in the box that we're supposed to be in, when everyone else in this industry is saying, no, I like the weird and wacky stuff that makes you unique. It's weird.
Yeah. And as we move along the continuum, I think that's something that we're learning. I know I'm learning that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just starting to embrace the imperfection in the craft.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you're looking forward to coming up this year?
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to opening my cabin up in Muskoka.
Ooh.
And getting out in the boat and swimming in the lake. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to doing some more work. I'm waiting for the release of a TV show that I just did, and another commercial. And just looking forward to seeing these things. I don't even watch TV that often, actually. That's what it's a dichotomy, actually. But I don't really like watching television that much. And the funny thing is with that PetSmart commercial, it's on every 10 minutes. And my wife is watching it, and so she's singing along and making fun of me at the same time, and talking about parrot poop and so forth. But anyway, I'm looking forward to doing more art. I'm looking forward to reading more scripts. I belong to a group of actors that get brand new scripts on their feet, and so we do it in the Zoom format. And it is really refreshing to read some of these scripts. And I've been fortunate enough to read some just fantastic stuff, and stuff by well-known writers, well-known Canadian writers as well. So these are the things that just make me happy and grateful to be doing what I do.
You mentioned your wife. How would she and other people in your life, how would they describe what you do for a living?
Well, Deb is my wife, yes, and director of photography. We're doing self-tapes.
Yep, I love it.
Especially during a pandemic, I can tell you that our crew is pretty small. But Deb just says, hey, Tony's an actor. Tony's an actor and a musician. And but it's been that way for quite a while. I was a banker and a musician for the longest time. But as we already talked about that, we were able to get rid of that banking part.
Do you have any final kind of words of wisdom? No pressure.
Hopefully they're not my final words, Doctor, but you may know something that I don't. I think that, again, the pandemic has really brought this to light for me. It's important to create, and I think that if someone watching this podcast feels a desire to create, I want to tell you, do it. Absolutely. You do it.
Thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you Tony for being my guest this week. Everyone check out the links below for links to Tony's music. Also, that hilarious pet store commercial with the parrot. It can be seen everywhere. I'll put a link below because it's delightful, as was the story he told. Hilarious. I hope you'll tune in next week for another episode of Second Act Actors. Bye!